Good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Tom Lochran. I'm the fire chief for the city of Timmins. I was not the fire chief for the city of Timmins when this event took place. And there's a couple of things I want to do, and then I'll be coming back on after. But the first thing I want to do, because I would be the first guy to forget it, is I do really want to thank Lori Capel for all her hard work and efforts to get everybody here today. I know she spent, sometimes these things seem really simple, but to get everybody coordinated, short notice on a lot of stuff because the Solgen's office is very reluctant sometimes to give too much information out too early. But Lori has done a fantastic job on getting everybody here today and doing this little bit of a ceremony before we actually get into the Solgen part. So again, I thank Lori for doing it. I thank everybody who is in attendance today, our recipients, their families, and I think it would only be, I think at the end of the day, the ideal way to start this ceremony off. I'd like to introduce former Deputy Chief Eller Bevan and now interim Fire Chief in Coburg, who was at that scene, was the Deputy Fire Chief at the time, was the individual who put the names forward and did the legwork to get where we are here today. And I will get him to come in and do some introductions and say a few words. So, Eller, thanks for coming, and the floor is yours.
Your Worship, Mayor Peary, City of Timmins CEO Dave Landers, and Fire Chief Lochran. We are in attendance today to celebrate a very heroic act that took place on October 24th. It's emotional. I lived it with you guys. I'm very proud. I would like to introduce each recipient for the Firefighters Medal of Bravery and acknowledge their families. Firefighter Steve Galarno, please stand with your family. Firefighter Greg Janik, please stand. Captain Bill McCord. And Firefighter Travis Tulloch. Thank you. Please sit. What was accomplished that day speaks to the exceptional training all of you received, an ability to have career and volunteer firefighters work together to save another human being is incredible. At this time, I'd like to call upon Chief Lochran and the recipients to come to the front of the room, and I'd like to introduce Mayor Peary to introduce you and say a few words on behalf of all recipients. Please come to the front, all recipients, please.
This is a tremendous day for the city of Timmins, because you see what we see here is four young gentlemen, although a lot younger than I am, so I can call them young gentlemen, that did an amazing thing a few years ago. I happened to be at the site. It was a couple days after the election, and I was obviously, as always, up early, and there was the headlines, Timmins Press, Good Samaritan Inn on fire, in flames. So I got there relatively early in the morning, and what I first observed, was a well-oiled machine between the volunteers and the full-time. And it really was a well-oiled machine. Jamie Costello was the commander that day, that morning. I talked to him. I asked if it had anybody been hurt? Had anybody been killed? And I think he told me 2 people had to be evacuated. One individual was harmed severely. They weren't entirely sure whether he was going to survive. And that's about what I knew about the situation at the time. Other than, as I said, a really well-oiled machine where all parts were working. You had, I think, every fire department was represented there at that fire, and I'm not entirely sure the backup for Timmins might have been Mount Joy. Okay, so I watched this unfold, and then I learned of what these gentlemen had done. But then I realized it was only part of the story. The whole story is right here. And the first time I read this was just a few days ago. The first time I had seen these pictures of the melted helmets. And like Ellard, it brings you to tears. All I could think of, because I knew Travis as a very young boy with my son, I thought to myself, oh my God, what could have happened? How the families would have been affected. And these gentlemen, of course, I've come to know over time, and with the same thoughts. What you did that day put your lives in danger. I can't say you forgot about your families. I don't know how anybody be able to walk in there and not have a thought or two about, wow. But then you read about the fact you crawled through the smoke. You had to struggle to get the individual out of that hallway and get him out of harm. If that doesn't affect you emotionally, then you're not a human being. And you guys, I know you're trained. I know that you executed your duties as trained people, but I got to tell you, it's amazing the courage that you displayed. Humbles me. I'm humbled to be in front of you here today. I'm honored to be in front of you. Every once in a while, you have a great day as mayor, and this is one of them. This is simply one of them. Gentlemen, I'm extremely proud of you, your actions, and I'm deeply humbled that my name will be associated with this occasion for the city of Timmins and with you gentlemen. Thank you very much for your courage, your dedication, your professionalism, and humility. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
You know, the mayor has just triggered me, and I know many of you are sitting there and may have seen this, may understand a little bit about it, but I think it's probably appropriate. I think we have enough time that I read this, so that I think everybody's kind of on the same page here. So, on October 24th at 3:41, the Timmins Fire Department responded to a working fire at the Good Samaritan Inn, a rooming house, homeless shelter located at 137 Golden Avenue in South Porcupine. Upon arrival of the first apparatus, they reported a confirmed working fire with flames blowing out of the roof. And I'll see if the mayor can make some copies of this after and provide you, but beside this caption, there's a picture of those flames coming out of the window on the roof. They were notified by tenants that one person was unaccounted for and that he was on the second floor. The first teams to attempt entry tried to go through an exit door that was near the tenant's room. As they entered the passageway, there was scattered a bunch of stuff that was scattered all over the place in a great amount, trash, bags of clothing, etc. This created many obstacles to get through the hallway, causing their low alarms to go off, forcing them to exit the building as heat, smoke, and zero visibility had taken over. Once the team had exited without any hesitation or concern for their lives, firefighter Bill McCord and firefighter Steve Garlino entered the building, followed by firefighter Travis Tulloch and firefighter Greg Janet. And for those of you who don't know, what you have here is there's two volunteers, in this case from the Whitney Fire Station, and two from the Timmins Station on the paid side. So the working relationship between the volunteers and the paid is one of great respect for each other, and the ability to work together, train together, has been there for a number of years. So that was one of the successes here too that we don't necessarily always talk about. The first team, Bill and Steve, entered the door and advanced down the hallway to the tenant's room. While advancing down the hall with a hose line, they encountered extreme heat and heavy smoke. As the team located the correct room and entered the suspect's victim's room, firefighter Bill McCord and firefighter Steve Garlino began a sweep of the smoke-filled room. With zero visibility, they searched on their hands and knees and located Mr. Ernest Jones between a bed and a desk. He was unconscious and somehow wedged around the bedpost. While Bill and Steve searched the room, the second team, firefighter Travis Tulloch and firefighter Greg Janik, entered and joined them to free Mr. Jones. Bill, Steve, and Travis struggled to remove Mr. Jones from his position as his leg had seemed to be wrapped around the bedpost. While the three men worked on freeing the victim, firefighter Greg Janik stood guard at the doorway of the room and monitored what time they had as the heat and the fire approached the room at an alarming rate. He informed the team that the hallway was getting hotter by the second, and they needed to grab him and go before it was too late for all of them to exit the building. After a few minutes and with zero visibility, all four firefighters worked together, and Mr. Jones's leg was freed. Bill and Steve took his arms. Travis and Greg pulled him by the feet as they dragged him out of his room and into the hallway. As they entered the hallway, the heat of the fire had intensified so much that the four firefighters were confronted with very extreme temperatures. And there's some pictures here as well that once you get copies, you'll see the impact it had on their helmets and PPE. They crawled into the hall and headed towards his door while dragging Mr. Jones. They tried to be as gentle with him as they could while being aware of the life-threatening situation they were all in and how quickly the fire was growing. They finally reached the door and were assisted by other firefighters to bring Mr. Jones down the stairs and to a waiting EMS crew. Immediately after the rescue, knowing that all residents were accounted for, firefighters proceeded with a defensive attack. And this is directly from Deputy Bevan at the time. Upon my arrival, I spoke with Incident Command Captain Costello. He informed me of the heroic rescue the four firefighters had performed. When I spoke with each firefighter involved, I immediately understood the conditions they encountered while trying to rescue Mr. Jones, and their actions were above and beyond the call of duty. All four firefighters had severe heat damage to their helmets. Firefighter Greg Janik's bunker gear had serious damage to the shoulders due to the extreme heat, dispersed along the hallway to the room where he stood as guard. The four fighters continued their commitment to fight the fire afterwards. Throughout the event, each expressing their own concern, they continued to check in with me to see if I had received any feedback on Mr. Jones's condition. Later, and this is Ellard, he attended the local hospital and was informed that Mr. Jones was in very serious condition because of the temperature and smoke he had been exposed to, and his chances were grave. Many weeks passed, and we were informed that Mr. Jones still remained in the hospital. I'm tremendously proud of what my fellow firefighters accomplished that day and how well all our composite forces worked together to execute such a dangerous rescue. Full-time firefighters Greg Janik and Travis Tulloch and volunteer firefighters Bill McCord and Steve Garlino are the true definition of what a firefighter is all about. The selflessness that they all possess together while endangering their lives and setting aside their families to save another human being they had never met is truly admirable. All four men are true noble heroes by any different definition, and that is why, I believe, they are eligible for the Ontario Medal of Bravery, and that brings us to where we are here today, almost 4 years later. But I think that's something important that if you hadn't seen it, that I think many of the families will want to see. There's not too many more words that I could say any better than what was written, but as a fire chief who's never experienced a ceremony like this, the ceremony that we're going to have today, I think is the best you could have virtually. The reason that we wanted to do what we're doing here today and getting the people who are here was to be able to have our own ceremony so that everybody could be involved together, because when you get on the virtual, it's more individual. Most of the recipients and myself and any others who are staying are not going to be able to see the whole ceremony unless you exit the room and can get onto the link that they have set out for it. So we felt it was very important for these guys to be honored with their families, with the mayor, with the CAO, former Deputy Beaven, and others from the fire service and families who may have been there. So again, I'm just going to say thanks, to say how proud I am personally of these individuals goes without saying. I think to this day they continue, I'll say other than Steve, who I think somewhere along the line retired, but I mean, they dedicate a lot of time, effort to training, to responding, to helping and work with others, and we as a community should be all very proud of that. So again, I want to say thank you. I am going to, I'm probably going to need a little help from Lori, because if anybody's ever seen me pin something on somebody, you may be scared of the result, but we are going to pin them, and then I'll ask Dave Landers to come up and say a few words. So with that, and I'll put my glasses on so it doesn't go in too deep. Okay. Okay. Okay, Travis. We'll pin them after. We won't show the.
Okay, so good.
Oh, another one. Really? Make sure your wife gets the picture. Okay. Right. He doesn't get too many pictures, so he'll be.
I'll grab another one from this side.
Steve? Congratulations. Well deserved. They're going to trust you to take good pictures.
I'll take another one.
We'll pin them in two. So with that, I'll ask Dave Landers, Chief Administration Officer for the City of Timmins, to come forward.
All right, thank you, Chief Loughran, Mayor Peary, family, friends, colleagues of our esteemed guests today. This being the council chambers, nobody ever really listens to me in here, so I'm going to keep this brief because I don't imagine today would be much different than any other day. But as the Chief Administrative Officer for the City of Timmins, I admire the men and women who have chosen a very noble profession or have committed to volunteering daily to help keep our community safe. As you well know, the Ontario Medal for Firefighter Bravery is the province's highest honor in recognition of firefighters whose actions demonstrate outstanding courage and bravery. Today we're reminded that we have some exceptional people in Timmins, in our city, who put their lives at risk on an ongoing basis and show great courage in what are often very dangerous circumstances. To my knowledge, joint awards for career and for volunteer firefighters is unprecedented. My hat's off to the group that come together on that day, all of the As we've heard, all of the stations that were working together. We had South Porcupine Command, we had Timmins Career, we had Whitney Station, backed up by the other services, keeping our community safe at the fire scene, taking care of people who live on the fringes of our society, those who are least cared for. And these brave men went straight into that situation without judgment to do what they needed to do. So to Greg, Travis, Bill, and Steve, I offer my congratulations, knowing that our city is a safer and better place, thanks to the dedication, professionalism, and caring of our career and professional firefighters and volunteer firefighters. Thank you, gentlemen.
So again, I know we have a lot of time in between this session and the next one. I believe we have to be online for 3 o'clock to go through the practice session ahead of time with that group to make sure computers and the room and everything works. And if people are relying on me on the IT side to make that happen, then we better have some support here for sure. But I also want to take this opportunity that families can mingle a little bit. But before we do that, I would like to get Dan to get a group photo wherever he feels would be the best spot with this group. And then we can kind of do a little bit of I'll just call it a meet and greet and socialize for a little bit. And then I suspect there's family here too that may want to watch the whole virtual event. Or if their plan is to stay here and be with their loved one as they go through this, then at least it gives you a little time to relax and do whatever you have to do. So again, I want to take this opportunity again to thank Laurie, to thank His Worship the Mayor for being here, former Deputy Bevan for participating today, for our firefighters, for the families, and obviously for the recipients. Again, I want to say thanks and congratulations on behalf of the City of Timmins. And before you run, Dan will set you up for a picture. So again, thank you.